You're rocking with the best.
Social media can make almost any argument sound powerful, but
Run it up, running band. They scared of my team, they know who I am. They rolling the dice, we win cause we plan. The things that they teach, don't know how to stand. I'm a wrist like a stage, they can't glance. You look like you wanna let go of stress. What's up? I thought so. Oh, I am the blueprint, if not, why you copy me, fam? What's up? I thought so. Okay, I cannot help that they copy. Hey, I am that dad, call me Poppy. They wish they created the set. Yes, they on my D like a jockey. When it comes to the print, I'm the blue. Who? Every complaint, draft is smooth. Supreme Elite team be the ones. I created my own school. Facts. I came from the trenches. I came from riding them benches. To proving my case with exhibits. My craft is exquisite. I find where they hiding them digits. The cancer that's not in remission. Hey, please pay attention. You can't recreate the five lenses. You can't duplicate what is written. You either gon' pay the tuition or pay for assistances. Or pay the mistakes when you case it, dismiss them. I come with everything that's under the kitchen sink. I haven't slept in a week. They scared while I'm willing to compete. These scammers are devils and I keep them under my feet. Ay, they saying they win, I never take their prescription. They never coming from the plaintiff's position. I am the blueprint, blatant admission. Check it, when I talk classes in session, professionals, even the tacos respect it. Show me a win, that's not a rejection. Tell me the truth without all the stretching. These gurus are boring and it's stretching. These students are dumb, desperate depression. Set you, yeah, I'm done with this lesson. Came from the streets, still I'm a step up. Run it up, run it up.
You're rocking with the best. You're rocking with the best.
social media can make almost any argument sound powerful, but courtrooms don't operate on confidence, slogans, or viral clips. They operate on admissible evidence, controlling law and remedies the court actually has the authority to grant. Tonight, the new culture empire is taking the claims promoted by online Patriot and Moor gurus out of the comments section and placing them under real legal scrutiny. This is not an attack on anyone's culture, identity, or right to question the system. It is a demand for accountability, especially when people are paying for advice that could affect their homes, money, freedom, and future. Because confidence is not authority, belief is not precedent, and a theory without a court-recognized remedy is not a legal strategy. So tonight, we're asking the question every guru should be prepared to answer. Where's the case law? This is the new culture empire. Let's get into it.
Supreme Elite team. New culture empire. Run them numbers up. Supreme Elite, we the real empire. Got the screenshots, we don't need a choir. Talk big bands, better match that wire. Receipts on the table, watch the fakes get quieter. Supreme Elite, we the real empire. New culture, turn the cab to a flyer. Turn your whole scheme to a caution sign. You can't fake rank when you ain't got a dime. Time is lit, every play got proof. Time stamp, every move in the booth. Talk checks, he could pull that thread, pull that PDF, make the cap turn red. Kenny on the triflex with a mansion dream. Picture in the chat, said it's all on me. Walked in talking about funds on deck, till the pen hit paper, that's a cartoon check. Posing in the driveway, angle right. Bank ran numbers, whole story turn light. Tryna sue folks just to feel like she paid.
You're rocking with the best. You're rocking with the best.
Welcome to this Sunday night edition of the New Culture Empire's live stream. Tonight, I have a validation moment. I'm sorry, a vindicated moment. I know and you're going to see it in this video. We're going to see, and one of the main things that you always hear me talk about, what is the most important thing when you are going to substantiate and stand on your claims. The most important thing is your interpretation of what you're reading. These online gurus, these social media teachers who are pushing these theories, you are about to see what happens when they have to substantiate it and the dangers of disregarding the law, disregarding set law, disregarding the statutes over a belief system. And this is, you're going to see what happens when these social media teachers who teach about court runs right into a licensed real attorneys. You're about to see, because this was a beautiful moment. Now, shout out to TikTok, Facebook as well. Shout out to TikTok and Facebook as well. We're about to get into it. This is a social media teacher, a social media guru who sells courses, who was selling packets, who was selling these things, and they're debating a licensed attorney online in a live stream. This is a social media teacher versus a licensed attorney. Now, let's get into it.
Peace and love to all. Peace and love to all. Shalom to all the Moors worldwide. Honors to all the people in the chat jumping in to hopefully learn something today. We're here.
Yeah, on what not to do.
With D.A. Natalie Burrell. We're also here with myself, Brother Cujo L. We have Brother Jamal Bey and Brother Yusuf L as well.
Who is in this live stream? No caps. You are slated for tomorrow morning, bro. Like tomorrow around 12 o'clock. You should be on the lookout for it. Just running our final checks. You should be on the lookout for it. Hey, shout out to No Caps. Got the ledger, got the report. I'm pretty sure when he gets it and reads it and analyzes, and when he shows up in the chat the next time, he can probably give you what, if he felt like he spent his money wrongly or disregard for the law or disregard like he wasted his money. And if No Caps feel like he wasted his money, if I didn't accurately do what I said I was going to do, I would give No Caps a refund. And everybody heard it. I would give No Caps a refund if he feels like that was an inadequate report. But Yusuf L is in this chat. Yusuf L. So the secure party creditor teacher, the secure party university teacher, the secure party university courts teacher. He's in this live too. Oh, this is going to be a banger.
On the stream. I know you said that you had an hour, so we wanted to let you had some issues. So because of what he presented, the same issues that you had, you could present those to us so we can qualify or disqualify certain things.
That's an interesting approach, but I'm the guest in your house, but still okay.
Because usually what we would do, because the whole point is that we were just going to play the video and debunk everything, but you said you wanted to be on here to do it live, so
yeah,
which is why we're doing it this way.
Okay, yeah, sure, up to you. So the video that I was responding to was something that the young man had put up himself on his own YouTube channel, where he was giving pointers that were not legal advice, but he was giving what he said were Supreme Court cases. Not all of them were, but some of them were Supreme Court cases on.
Yusavelle. She was debunking Yusavelle's teaching. And this is the licensed attorneys, by the way. She's an attorney.
On the issue of certain rights that he held out to be inalienable rights or rights that were not privileges, and basically arguing that those cases proved his point, in particular with the right to travel and the privilege to drive. And so I looked.
You ever notice why Yusavelle is walking back that license to travel, licensed driver's license? Notice how he's walking back a lot of his prior statements? Yeah. You can thank me for it. As I've been saying before, my biggest student is Yusavelle.
Looked at the cases that he talked about.
He bites everything that I do.
And the cases did not talk about the rights that he was referring to, which
So do a lot of other people at that.
was the right to travel, and did not apply to what he was talking about. And so I found cases that were talking about what he was talking about, and all of them unanimously said that there is a right to travel, but there is no fundamental right to drive. So that's it. Basically, that was the point of the video.
Okay, no. When you say the right to travel, you do understand that that is a right that comes with the liberties that everybody has a right to.
In this live stream, you are going to hear everything that I've been saying for several years come out into play. This is a big vindication. Everything I've been saying for years, even the recent months, you're going to see it play out right here.
So it's not a separate thing that he's talking about. When he says right to travel, he's speaking about a right that everybody who's a national of this land or who's Aboriginal and indigenous to this land has a right to do.
First incorrect thing he said, as long as you're in this country, you can travel from state to state. You don't need a separate nationality. Remember when they always want to put themselves in these grandiose titles and positions, then when this normal, average, everyday person has the same rights?
No, so I disagree with your premise because first of all, you're yourself limiting that right by saying that everyone who's a national of this land or everyone who's indigenous or aboriginal to this land has a right to travel. That's it. Everyone who's in the United States has a right to travel, right? And you don't have to be a national to the land or indigenous. As long as you're present in the country, you are subject to the country's laws.
Ooh, sister, that just cut deep. You want to know why it cut deep? Because they sell this, we're this exalted being. We can do things because we have this right status. And everybody else who doesn't have the same status as us can't do it. In reality, everybody has the same rights to travel. It's not, and this you're going to hear the purposeful moving the goalposts, gaslighting, and being triggered. Because the argument is never that you don't have a right to travel. That's not the argument. You can travel from New Jersey to Florida as freely as you want to all corners of the United States of America. Hence, when you go on vacation, you don't need a passport to travel throughout the United States or its territories. The mode of transportation comes with certain restrictions and requirements, which thus, depending on your mode of transportation, is no longer a privilege, it's a right. Because that right can be restricted if you are not in compliance with the rules and the laws that are established to govern certain modes of transportation, i.e., driving a vehicle. Just because your license is suspended and you can't pay the court fines doesn't make the laws unconstitutional. Because behind the majority of all these right to travel, I don't need a driver's license arguments, is a suspended license, court fines that they can't get from up out of, but they need the most convenient mode of transportation is a vehicle. This is why they're really arguing.
As far as the right to travel is concerned, your right to travel, although it's a right that's given to you, is always subject to limitations, just like every single right is subject to limitations. The right to free speech, the right to bear arms, the right to congregate with other people, freedom of religion, even that has limitations on it that's placed on everyone. The right to conduct commerce, all of those things have limitations on them. And so what the case law is basically saying is that even though you have a right to travel, you don't have an automatic right to operate a motor vehicle, which is only one form of traveling, right? That is a privilege that the state gives you. And you could walk, you could crawl, you could get in a boat and go from point A to point B. But if you want to operate a motor vehicle, get behind the wheel of a car or an automobile or a conveyance and put the thing in drive, put your foot down on the pedal and go, then you need to be licensed by a state. That's just what it is. And courts have again and again and again recognized that up to the Supreme Court and the federal level. And there is no case saying that driver's licenses or a DMV or an MVA in any way restrict someone's right to travel. You have a right to travel. You don't have a right to operate a motor vehicle, a boat, or an airplane without regulation.
Well, 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 what do you know? Been saying the same thing for years. Huh. Well, I'll continue to let this licensed attorney continue to defense attorney at that, to give a wonderful breakdown.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think based on what you're saying, the actual physical act.
Now remember, y'all, these are people who she's debating is because she reacted to one of their videos, then they was going to react to and critique her video. Remember, there in this live, there's people that's in their chat. These are the people that you're hearing she's conversing with. These are the people that's selling these courses, that has these secure party credit universities. So this was automatically, I believe, is going to make the conversation disingenuous because they have something to sell. They don't want to cast doubt in the zombies, which I call their students zombies, because they just buy shit without ever sitting back and analyzing first, or hearing there's consistencies with the teacher saying it, being able to do your own research. No, these people bought a belief system that they have to uphold. Now remember, y'all, it's not an attack on why you believe these things. You can believe the earth is flat, round, I don't give a rat's ass. It's the attacks on the arguments and the case laws that you cite to support your belief. And this is why people get triggered, because they think that when I say you're wrong, I'm attacking their identity. No, I'm just attacking your arguments and your talking points.
Of getting behind the wheel and the commercial status of driving are being intertwined.
There is no commercial status of driving when it comes to a private individual operating a motor vehicle. So again, I reject the premise of your question. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you, whatever you want to call yourself, want to operate a motor vehicle, move a car, whatever, no, they're not. Under the law, no, they're not. Okay, no, real quick. There's nothing to object to. We're not, hold on. I was still talking.
Okay, so you're seeing it right now. You know what his pushback against her is? It's because I wholeheartedly believe this, And now you're telling me I'm wrong. This is the pushback that everybody who believes these things, their pushback is always going to be, number one, you are attacking my identity and belief system. Number one. Number two, you are attacking the information that I rely on wholeheartedly. So if you're saying this is wrong and you're saying this is wrong, this means everything I've been studying from day one has been wrong. This is the frustrating part that comes in because I put so much time, energy, spent money on this, did research to nothing. This is deflating for many people. And they feel lost, like they don't know what's true, know where to go. This is the difference between proper interpretation and taking something on its face and believing it's true.
So if you just said that no, it's not. You just said that no, it's not, but you haven't provided any law to back that up.
Classic example. Just went over it in the newsletter. What do I always say? I don't give a damn what you assert. If you have no factual allegations and assertions that's backed up by law and fact in which the courts recognize, you are saying nothing, regardless of any claims that you're raising. It means nothing to courts. This is why, although a lot of people think they have good claims, from a legal standpoint, the legal lens, it's a bunch of googly gop.
So traffic deals with commerce. So
No.
if driving mentions traffic and motor vehicles mentions traffic, and traffic is commerce, then when you drive, you're absolutely within a commercial capacity, which of course legislators have the right to regulate, because legislators have the right to regulate commerce. But if you're not operating within a commercial capacity, then they have no right to regulate anything that you're doing.
Right there. The classic example. Everything that he just said, you cannot find any legal or factual basis in law or fact to support it. Because why do you have to get a commercial's driver's license? And then you got your regular driver's license. So the states are already making a distinction between a Class A, Class B, Class C driver's license than the person who just got their own vehicle that's driving back and forth to work. Why would you need a commercial's driver's license then? Why wouldn't everything be, instead of your normal driver's license, why would they have a distinction in getting a commercial's driver's license? Just like the people who drive trucks, who gets their CDLs. Why would you need to get that if everything is in a commercial capacity? You see, real life refutes what these people say. Just everyday, normal, real life of what you see refutes it. Oops, sorry.
Cite the case law that says that. Cite the case law that says that.
Hold on, give me a few seconds.
Go right ahead.
And I guarantee you, it's going to be a case from like 1844 that which the vehicles wasn't even a thing. And I guarantee it's going to be a misinterpretation of that. And then I bet you when the case laws don't work, they're going to move to the Black's Law Dictionary. Like the Black's Law Dictionary is somehow law. Like the courts make their rulings based on what's in the Black's Law Dictionary. Like the Black's Law Dictionary replaces statute. I guarantee it's the same sequence with everybody. When they don't have case law to support it, they move the goalpost to the Black's Law Dictionary.
Now, the other part with regard to that right to travel is based on what you're traveling in. So like you said, if the state is saying getting in a motor vehicle, getting in a truck, getting in a bus, getting in whatever has to be licensed, right?
Yeah.
How does a state, which is a foreign European corporation?
Stop right there. See, See, y'all got to catch the underlinings, the little things. You notice how they're making a assertion, a belief. You see how belief systems gets added into the conversation. The question was, how does a state do this when the states are foreign European? See, that is a belief. There's no basis for law and fact in that. When they say, how can they do it when the United States is a corporation? When they say when the United States or when the states are foreign, when they started with that is their belief. They think it's fact, but that's their belief talking.
Have jurisdiction in land that was here before the state. Is that because they conquered indigenous people, or is that because they naturally have that right?
Cite to me a case, law, or regulation that says that a state is a foreign European corporation.
Oh my gosh, lady, you are parroting me. You sound just like me. And this is the problem that they have with me. I'm not going to go into a belief system battle with you. I'm going to take what you say, give it back to you, and say, support this with accurate, legal, valid case law, and show me exactly what you're saying where the courts have ruled. And this is the problem this is why they can't stand up to me, because they don't have the court and the law on their side. But they'll cite it all to their people, but everything that they're citing has been a misinterpretation. This is when I say what you interpret determines on how you move.
Well, all states have a founding date, right? And a charter, right?
You notice he couldn't point to a statute. Now he's going to, remember, moving the goalpost to a founding date in a charter. Get back to the question.
Cite to me a case, law, or regulation that says that a state is a foreign European corporation, that a state, one of the 50 states of the United States.
Why would the foreign European corporation colonists create a law that's gonna limit their capacity to continue violating people's rights?
That is the classic answer that they all give when they can't point to anything in the same laws, the same statutes, the same regulations that they like to cherry pick. But when it comes to finding it and saying, hey, it says it right here. Look, courts have interpreted the same way. They can never do it. So the next thing is the conspiracy theory. Why would they make it public? Or why would they really tell you? Or why would they make it public that your birth certificate's really big? Then if they're not making it public and you're conceding in that moment that there's no case law or no factual basis in law of fact, then how can you come to the conclusion that it's still happening when your response is, well, why would they do this? When that's your response, you are conceding that you can't find them. So since you can't find it, it goes back to, well, this is what I believe is true. I don't have any factual evidence to support it, but this is what I believe. I wish they would start preferencing that first. This is what I believe is true, but they will never tell you this is just their belief system talking. They're going to masquerade it as a fact.
So then you're conceding that there is no law that says that.
I'm conceding that the law is the Constitution, but the Constitution is a national constitution, not the state constitution.
You see how I just moved the goalposts? And they have an audience watching, so they can't be shown out by this licensed defense attorney. So they can't, they have to, and this is the dangerous part of these spaces. They got to keep the mask on for as long as they can so they can make a profit off what they're selling.
So, okay, fair enough. Go ahead, finish.
So if the supreme law of the land is the Constitution, and the supreme law of the land says that the Constitution is that law, anybody who creates law after that is practicing color of law, because they should be just going by the supreme law of the land.
You see how Y'all, do y'all not get how ridiculous he sounds with that argument? When every Supreme Court for the past 100 years have all confirmed the state's power and authority to create laws, rules, ordinances to govern the safety and welfare of citizens of each state. The same Supreme Court and Constitution that they want to cite as their best friend is the same Supreme Courts in the Constitution that granted the states, per the 10th Amendment, to make the laws that you're trying to challenge today.
Okay, so you then, let me understand this correctly. You accept that the United States Constitution is valid, that it has the force of law.
The United States Constitution for the Republic.
The United States Constitution.
7 articles, 10 Bill of Rights. The organic constitution that founded the United States of America Republic.
And the Bill of Rights is amendments 1 through 10. So that's what I'm saying. They don't really do the research that they think they're doing. He just contradicted himself. He said several articles to the Bill of Rights. Well, the 10th Amendment is part of the Bill of Rights. So you're arguing something in which the same Bill of Rights you're talking about gave the states their authorities to do what they're doing. You gotta get off these scribed, ancient, old, 30-year, same old passed down documents, which all the teachers do today is just remix the words and repackage it and sell. You notice there's never any case law that these people cite that remotely resembles the actual subject matter at hand.
It's the supreme law of the land.
So then you don't accept the Constitution in its whole entirety.
When you say its whole entirety, are you meaning the amendments after 10?
Yes.
Yeah. No,
like the ones that abolished slavery, for example. You don't accept any of that.
No, because I was never a slave. I was always in this land. I mean,
see, this is the part right here. See, this is the part. Since I don't accept amendments after 10, that doesn't mean the amendment it's not valid. I told you, any laws that they disagree with, they will ignore. Any laws that's favorable to them, they'll slam it down your throat. But all it takes is for them to disagree with the law, to disagree with their belief system, for them to disregard that and run off their beliefs.
Okay.
I don't care leadership.
Okay.
Can I
just yes, but let me just finish addressing his point. I think that first of all, the Constitution, which you accept in part but reject in part, does lay out how the United States is to be formed with the separate states, right? And the recognition of those states, and then the delegation of powers between those states. And if you accept up to that point with the delegation of powers between those states, right, the separation of the federal and state powers, then you recognize that states are given the authority to issue driver's licenses, or not, they could decide not to, but they've all decided to do that, to issue driver's licenses or commercial truck driver's licenses, which is always interesting. You guys don't talk about CDLs like that, but that is, they do recognize the difference between the private operation of a motor vehicle and the commercial operation of any other type of vehicle. Like,
You're rocking with the best.
And then people wonder why the Supreme Elite team wins way more than we lose. This is why the success rate is so low in these spaces. Many people have no clue to what the laws are really about, because they was all fed a document that said, believe this way.
The truck that would require a CDL license, right? So the Constitution recognizes the state's authority to regulate someone's ability to operate a motor vehicle. So if you accept the Constitution, although you're limited in what you accept, but if you accept the Constitution, which I think up to the 10th Amendment does deal with the delegation of powers to the state, then you in turn must accept that the Constitution gives the states the authority to regulate how someone is able to operate a motor vehicle. And then I'll submit to Jamal's question.
I was providing the case law where I stated that when you're operating, when you're traveling, you're not operating in a commercial capacity, therefore the state's not has no authority to regulate what you're doing.
Go.
And then when you're driving, whether it be a personal truck, car, van, it doesn't matter what it is, when you're driving, then you're subject to commercial regulations. And here's the case law is Bud versus New York, 143 US 517.
And she's writing down that case. And I looked the case up too. And I swear to God, man, if I just had a half a penny that before I research these cases that these people cite, that there's going to be a misinterpretation, or the case is never going to talk about what their arguments are, the subject matter, the facts of the case is never going to deal with the matter at hand, I will be a billionaire. Like, it's at a 99% clip that in these pro se, do-it-yourself, legal beagle spaces, I don't gotta need a driver's license, when they go to court and cite cases, the case laws that they cite is never case laws that's going to support their arguments. Actually, the case laws that they cite, it does more to discredit their arguments, because they never read the cases in their entirety before they cite it, because it's been slapped on a piece of paper by some conspiracy theorist, some patron said, this is the law here. So all people do is cherry pick certain words from the case and they'll build their whole arguments around it.
It states, when therefore one devotes his property to a use in which the public had an interest, which would be commerce, he in effect grants the public, which would be the state, an interest in that use and must submit to be controlled by the public, which would be the state, for the common good, which means he submits to the commercial regulations to the extent of the interest that he has thus created. So if I get in my car and I advertise that I'm a taxi, then I have to conduct myself a certain way and I have to be regulated by, the rules of commerce. But if I just go in my car and I go to the store, then no one can regulate me.
Do you see that? Yeah. Listen, I don't care about that you believe it. Show me where the law has said you don't need a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle, where the Supreme Court has declared the DMVs unconstitutional. I'm talking about that word, because the argument is you don't need a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle. So the case law that you should be citing is the cases that said no, individuals situated throughout the United States do not need a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle. Therefore, we declare laws pertaining to driving rules, regulations, licensing, insurance unconstitutional. Show me a case law that says that, not an 1854 talking about other modes of traveling. Then you want to slide that to your driving argument. Show me case law where the Supreme Court has said requiring citizens to retain a driver's license before they operate a motor vehicle is unconstitutional. And I will shut up forever. Because you can't find one, because it doesn't exist.
And in referencing Black's Law Dictionary 4th edition, it states that a driver is one employed.
What did I tell you he was going to do? Go straight to the Black's Law Dictionary. Listen, Black's Law Dictionary is akin to a sovereign citizen. If you're using the Black's Law Dictionary as a main point of your evidence and your arguments, you are a sovereign citizen.
So again, that's the status is employed. So whether you be self-employed or working for someone else, a driver is subject to commercial capacity. When you read the definition of traveler, it mentions nothing about commerce.
Told you how they play semantics with the word game. A traveler and a driver. Remember, it's the splitting of hairs. When everybody knows the gear shaft has a D for driving and not a T for traveling.
So you understand that Black's Law Dictionary doesn't have the force of law, right? It's just a dictionary.
Right there. It doesn't have the force of law. Remember, you notice how I'm going to show you exactly this is how you know a belief system that comment cut his belief system. Watch this.
It's just a dictionary. Law. So for example,
is subject to commercial capacity. When we read the definition of traveler, it mentions nothing about commerce.
So you understand that Black's Law Dictionary doesn't have the force of law, right? It's just a dictionary.
What do you mean by that?
That right there. What do you mean by that? You know what you want to know why he said that? He said it because, hold on, you just attacked one of the pillars of my beliefs, the pillars of my studying, the pillars of what I rely on the argument. What do you mean, Black's Law Dictionary? What do you mean by that? It wasn't because it's not true. It wasn't because judges and courts don't make their rulings based on what the Black's Law Dictionary says. He said it because his belief system has now been attacked. This is why conversations with people who think like this can be very frustrated, because they're worried about what they believe being true. That's why they have to be right, because their belief system's behind it. That's why they don't pay attention to the facts in case law and substantive law, because it goes against their beliefs. That's why he snapped back like that.
It doesn't have the force of law. So, for example, if you were to answer...
Before you go into that, I read Bud versus New York.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into Bud versus New York, and I'm just taking you in reverse turn, basically. And I think that is you conceding that it doesn't have the force of law. It's just a dictionary.
Oh, no, I never said that.
So, Bud versus New York, 143 U.S. 517, is an 1893 case.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? It's always going to be for some 1800s, some weak wall cases from the early days of the Supreme Court, 1794, 1899, 1902 to support a driving case. That if you have to go back that far to case law when vehicles weren't even on the road, you have already lost the argument.
1892, 1893 is when it was decided by the Supreme Court. And let's see here. The automobile was invented in 1885.
Wow.
So we are citing an 1893 case to do with the right to drive. But the word, the right to travel? Okay. So
rights to drive. Driving is a privilege, right?
That's another belief system statement. Driving is not a privilege. I'm sorry. Driving is a privilege. It's not a right. Because your privileges of driving can be suspended.
right. So, but okay. So what is your definition of traveling by way of automobile? What do you call that?
Traveling is not within a commercial capacity. So that's going from point A to point B.
It doesn't matter if you're in a commercial capacity, if you're on a sabbatical, it doesn't matter. Because if you're in a commercial capacity, you will have a CDL.
Without being for hire, without subjecting yourself to the public, with of course respect for safety concerns, like not operating your motor vehicle or whatever you want to call it, with negligence, not going on the sidewalk, and of course yielding to all precautionary measures such as stop signs and things like that. So that's not for hire, that's not subject to commerce.
So what is it? Okay, so what does it mean when you travel by way of automobile? What is that?
Traveling.
Just traveling. So It doesn't matter what you're using to travel. It's just traveling.
Yes, because it's not from.
See, that right there, this is how they try to cut the law out of the equation. Oh, no. I'm not going to differentiate the mode of transportation because I know that I can't get around the certain requirements depending on the mode of transportation. So I'm just going to make a blanket traveling. So since I have a right to travel freely, I'm just going to stick driving under traveling. I'm going to stick flying under traveling. I'm going to stick a boat, a plane, and blanket it with traveling. So since I have a fundamental right to travel, that means I'm not going to differentiate what mode I use. So regardless if I'm in the vehicle or not, I'm still traveling. So I have a right to travel. So now I don't need a driver's license. This is how far they got to go. And when you got to go that far, when you got to do all that, you have already lost. There's no lengths people will go through, no depths they will go to protect their belief system in this space. There is none. Nothing is off limits to them. There is never a point when they're going to sit back and, you know what? Yeah, I think I got it wrong. The facts are slapping me right in the face. I see it. Yeah, I can't use that. That's not good law. No. They will never admit that.
It's not for high laws.
Okay. So
once you're not engaging in commerce, then it's not licensable.
okay, so you're telling me that the case Bud v. People doesn't have to do with driving, which really wasn't a common thing in 1893. It has to do with traveling, right?
No, that's not what I said.
What does it have to do with then?
I was stating that the difference between driving and traveling is that driving is operating your car or whatever it is you're behind the wheel at in a commercial capacity, therefore making you subject to state regulation. Traveling is not that. And since you're not subject to commercial regulations, they can't license you or restrict anything that you're doing.
Okay, so I guess what I'm trying to say is this. What I'm trying to ask you is this.
God.
When you rely on Bud v. People, right, that does not mention the word automobile, drive, or travel once in the entire case. It has nothing to do with that.
What did I tell you? Always the cases they cited never has anything to do with the subject matter at hand. Very few people in this space actually knows how to do real legal case research, case citation, so the facts and the substance of the case aligns exactly with the facts and the substance in the subject matter at hand. That is a lost art. You want to know why? Because many of these people are mentally lazy. They're not going to read a whole case because their minds are already made up.
What are you relying on it for?
The status of either operating in a commercial capacity, which the actual script that I referenced is dealing with that, devoting their property to public interest, which would be commerce, and in retrospect, not devoting your property to public interest, which again deals with the state's ability to regulate individuals in their private or public capacity. That's what this entire argument is about, because in law, the first issue is status. So we can't even talk about the fact that you're behind the wheel, what you're doing behind the wheel, unless we address the status. Just like if you're going to sue a cop, the first thing you have to address was, is that individual in his official capacity or in his private capacity? Okay.
So I think what you're asking for courts to do, because I'm going to assume that you're going to make this argument, or someone would, not necessarily you, I won't assume that someone would eventually make this argument in court. What you're asking for the courts to do is to bypass hundreds of years of jurisprudence, which says that operating a motor vehicle, no matter which capacity that you're operating it, whether it's commercial or not, you have to have a license in order to do that. And go all the way back to 1892 to a case that has nothing to do with traveling, nothing to do with automobiles. It doesn't even have anything to do with horse and buggies. It has nothing to do with what you're talking about. In order for them to find that, as long as you're not in a commercial capacity, that the states cannot regulate it.
What court in America is going to accept that argument? What court in America? You see how even with their own beliefs, they make the hill more steeper to climb than what it already is. They are not going to unwind that, because the driving is regulated by the states. It is a state legislator. So, separation of powers. The state legislator makes the laws. The courts interpret those laws and enforce those laws or provide remedies under those laws. The judges in the state cannot declare that the driving is unconstitutional or laws surrounding it. It's only one court in America that could declare a statute, law, order, ordinance, regulation unconstitutional. That is the Supreme Court. But why is it that nobody can find a case, at least dating back to the 80s, where the Supreme Court has explicitly stated that states requiring its citizens to obtain a driver's license before they operate a motor vehicle violates the Constitution? So therefore, we are striking that requirement down as unconstitutional. I don't want to hear no cherry pick. I don't want to hear no 1854 case. Find a Supreme Court case that says that, because that is the subject matter. Or if a citizen is in their private capacity and not in a commercial capacity, then they don't need a driver's license. Those two things. All you got to do is find a Supreme Court case that says it.
And time again, the courts have said that you're wrong. Why do you disregard all the cases that have come out since then? For example, because I let you get a case, so if you'll just let me get a case. For example, as to the fundamental right to drive, federally, there are 1,080 cases on that issue, right? And
1,080 cases on that issue. So, why is it hard for y'all to find one case out of 1,080 where the Supreme Court has said that you don't need a driver's license? Why can't y'all find it? I don't care about a belief. Find the case. Where's the case at? It shouldn't be this hard. You got 1,080 to pick from. Because maybe those 1,080 cases are saying the opposite of what you believe. Maybe that's why you got to go back to 1824.
Each of those cases says that there is no fundamental right to drive or operate a motor vehicle. And so if they...
It's not even in the Constitution.
Say that
We're not
again?
talking about the right to drive.
It is, so here's the thing. Whether or not you...
Now we call this the semantics game. Now, what I tell you, now the goalpost is being moved. When they get foreclosed on that argument, now the goalpost moves. They all do it. You show one thing to prove their point, they're going to ask you for another one. They're going to challenge. Now, they never challenged or questioned their source before they start babbling off the mouth. But as soon as you come with contradictory sources of evidence, now they want to question it. They want to investigate it. They want to challenge it. But they will never challenge their own.
You're talking about the right to drive when you go to court, and the issue that this, I don't want to say belief system, I don't want to be offensive. So school of thought, let's say that. The issue that this school of thought has is that no one else accepts what you're saying except for you. That's what.
That is the hallmark of these spaces. Nobody else believes it except them and the people that follow them. Nobody believes it. And many of the people that follow them, they believe it because they have no alternative in real life. It's like they believe it out of necessity. They just like people believe that you don't have to pay a bill. It's already paid. Well, for the people that's struggling to pay their bills every month, that is something that's a necessity. So they have to believe it. For a person who owes $5,000 in driving and fines and court fines and fees, guess what? That is a necessity to believe that.
So to be clear, are you stating that us referencing stare decisis and res judicata is our own independent school of thought?
You're not referencing stare decisis.
Just move the goalpost to stare decisis and res judicata. See, the goalpost is going to keep moving because they can never stand on any argument that they raise when they're challenged, because they're never used to being challenged. They're used to just do all the talking and no one can challenge their belief. This is why they block you. This is why they ban you. You can't, or you got to sit there and just listen to them babble off a bunch of sovereign citizen garbage for 2 hours. And it's not even original. All they're doing is repeating things from 30 years ago. But they all think they just found the Holy Grail last week.
Decisive.
So I stated Bud versus New York, what is that?
That's not stare decisis because it doesn't deal with the issue of driving. And when you go to court for operating a motor vehicle without a license, you're in a court that's dealing with traffic issues, which is driving. And the word traffic has multiple meanings, not just trafficking as in selling things back and forth. It also means the movement of motor vehicles in and around the public roads, right? And sometimes private roads, depending on what the issue is. So you cannot just selectively pick one definition of the word trafficking out of context and then try to apply that to a school of court. This is why, unfortunately, the Moorish Americans on this particular issue are so often unsuccessful in court.
Of course they are, because they represent the hallmarks of these spaces. I'm going to cherry pick a word that sounds favorable to me, and I'm going to base the whole case off that one word. I'm going to cherry pick this amendment, but I'm going to ignore the 10th Amendment. I'm going to acknowledge this law, but I'm going to disregard that law. It's never a consistent thing with these people.
I wish that you would actually reference the stare decisis. For example, Miller v. Reed, which is a 1999 case instead of an 1890-something case, which says that there is no fundamental right to drive, even though there is a right to travel. Are you reading me? Mendoza v. Garrett, which is a 2018 case, which says that there is no fundamental right to drive, no fundamental right to a driver's license. Wright v. Family Support Division of Missouri, which says that there is no fundamental right to operate a motor vehicle, even though you have a right to interstate travel and a right to interstate commerce. So I want to make this very, very clear. You make the arguments about interstate commerce, right, and the commercial ability to go back and forth, but courts have already said that you don't have a right to do that by way of motor vehicle. So the way in which you travel or go back and forth or do not engage in commerce, whether or not you're engaging in commerce, if you're going to do it by motor vehicle, you need to have a driver's license. And I know you might want to cut me off, but it's just the truth.
Yeah, but the point of you saying having the right or not having the right is based on what you're saying is a motor vehicle, which is sanctioned because you have to register that.
Let me help y'all out for a second. The right to travel primarily stems from Article 4 in the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Article 4 requires states to grant the same privileges and immunities to visitors that they do to residents, while the 14th Amendment guarantees equal protection of the laws. The Supreme Court has also long recognized a right to move freely between states, although the origins of this are less clear. Through a series of court decisions over the last 200 years or so, These ideas develop into a fundamental right to travel. In general, this legal right means you can move around areas of the U.S. without the government impeding you. So when they was bringing these cases in the 1950s and 60s, this was because they were marching, peaceful protesters, marching to Alabama, the marches in Alabama, Birmingham, right? And the sheriffs and the government were trying to block them from protesting and marching in a peaceful protest. So people like Reverend Shuttlesworth sued the state of Alabama because from them moving from one point of Alabama to another, they had the constitutional right to do so. But they was just walking across a bridge. So that case was not even about driving. So you can move from state to state. I can get in my vehicle and drive to North Carolina tomorrow. But that doesn't mean I don't need a driver's license when I get into my vehicle to travel to North Carolina. I hope that clears a little bit of it up.
So of course you're gonna have to have a license because you were the one who registered it with the state, with the province, who registered it with, in order to have that quote unquote privilege called driving.
One more. This is what they're not. One second. This is what they're not going to talk about. Hendrick versus State of Maryland, 1915, explains the basic relationship between local driving laws and the right to travel. In this case, the Supreme Court affirmed that states have the power to regulate their roads for public safety, which includes requiring licenses and vehicle registrations for both residents and non-residents. Shapiro versus Thompson concerns whether waiting periods for a state welfare benefit deters interstate travel. The court held that state durinational residency requirements for public assistance violated the 14th Amendment. So when people cite Shapiro versus Thompson, has nothing to do with a driver's case. The prior case I just read, Hendrick versus State of Maryland, the Supreme Court affirmed that they have the power to regulate their roads for public safeties, which was first granted by the 10th Amendment and further granted by the state constitution. So the Supreme Court that they like to cite, why did they skip over Hendrick versus State of Maryland? And Sanchez versus Roe, 1999, evaluates how the right to travel impacts equal treatment between the states. This case also focused on public assistance programs. Right? So with these right to travel, rights can be subject to limitations. For example, you have a right to free speech, but as the Supreme Court noted in Schneck versus United States, that doesn't mean you can falsely yell fire in a crowded theater without consequences. Along the same lines, your right to travel under U.S. law doesn't include the right to use a particular mode of travel, such as a motor vehicle or airplane. You must still qualify for the transportation mode. For example, you need to purchase a plane ticket and pass through a security inspection before a flight. Cities can also require payment for public transportation. Driving poorly without adequate training could harm others. It's in everyone's best interest to ensure drivers who share the road know what they're doing. As a result, state governments can require motorists to have a valid driver's license on public roads without violating their constitutional rights. The right to travel doesn't mean you can drive without a driver's license and a proper vehicle registrations.
But if you didn't register it, you would have the ability to exercise the right.
That's
But I guarantee that if we add you're going to say that you have a license, don't you?
So that's not true, right?
No.
And
no,
I have to challenge the premise. The premise is incorrect. Sir, the premise is incorrect. Whether or not you, first of all, you have to, sir, the premise is incorrect. Sir, the premise is incorrect. The premise, I will answer your question, but you must allow me to correct the premise. And that's what I'm saying. You make these allegations that are not based in the law. They're not based in the law.
I got a call today. Today.
You don't want me to actually answer the question, do you? You don't.
Before.
You want it? Oh wait, hold on. You want me to stop talking, but Mr. Moore invited me on his channel. Why are you being disrespectful to me? Is it because I am making arguments that you don't know how to overcome otherwise, Mr. Mutati?
That's exactly what's going on, because this is how they all get when they can't refute the pushback with case law and fact. They get triggered. Now it becomes an emotional battle over you're trying to challenge my identity and belief system and what I pay for and or what I sell, and I can't have it. This is where the conversations move from attacking the facts and the talking points. Now it gets to the ad hominem attacks. It gets to the yelling and muting. They all do it, sister. They do it on TikTok all day. This is what they do, because they can't stand on their positions, because they was never trained or taught how to stand on their position from a legal and lawful and court recognized position. They was taught to stand on it from a belief system position.
Mr. Musadi, are you being disrespectful to me because you cannot go against my argument, sir?
It's your standards. Your standards. It has nothing to do with you personally. Nobody's personally anything with you. We don't care.
He told me to drink my water and to stop talking, and that you guys needed to mute my microphone. I want to make sure that your viewers can hear that.
You're still talking. You're still talking.
Yeah. Well, you invited me. You said for me to take this on. You said for me to tell you what I'm thinking, and I told you that.
She is scorching them. One female scorching 3 or 4 people.
But you don't want to hear it.
The reason why is because we went on your video and we were just going to watch your video and debunk your video without you.
Okay.
How can you debunk her video? What are you going to use to debunk it? What can you actually use to debunk it?
You sent a message and saying you wanted to debate something.
And I'm answering your questions, but you don't want me to debate.
Hold on. So we said, fine. Come on here. It's not an issue because we don't care. You're not going to change us from doing what we're doing.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Regardless of hundreds of years of the court saying no, y'all will still find a new way to say the same thing. And then you wonder why you never win. Then you wonder why you got to file 5 or 6 or 7, 8 amended complaints. You wonder why you don't get a settlement. Wonder why you don't get free and clear title to your property. You wonder why you keep the asset free and clear, don't got to pay for it. You wonder why that's not happening in your lives on a consistent basis. You wonder why you keep losing judgments. Wonder why your loss column is through the roof where the wins are sparingly in these spaces. But you wonder why that happens.
I don't want to change you.
You're not going to influence us or put any information on us that's going to make us feel like, oh, we shouldn't be doing what it is that we're doing.
That was never her position. You're feeling that way because what did I say earlier? It's not, she's just, she thought she was going to debate the talking points and the arguments. But with these people, it's never about the talking points and the facts. You are debating their belief system. It's not about the facts with these people. It's about the belief. This is why they push back so hard. Because to these people, this is just like religion. Nobody can tell you your religion is wrong. And you're going to push back on anyone. This is why many people in these spaces, they're stuck on first base after being in this space for years because they can never let new or challenging information to come in if it challenges their belief system. They only want to hear things from people, words from people who think the way they do. Believe. They want one big echo chamber. They don't ever want to sit down and hash it out with different beliefs without getting triggered.
I don't want to change you.
The question that was asked to you is, do you have a license?
And I said that your premise was incorrect because you are giving misinformation, sir.
You have a license.
You are giving misinformation, sir.
You have a license.
Sir, you're giving misinformation. Sir, you're giving misinformation.
You have a license.
Sir, you're giving misinformation.
You have a license.
Can I correct your premise first?
No. Do you have a license?
So your premise is incorrect. The reason that I say that your premise is incorrect is because whether or not you register your vehicle, you need to have a license in order to operate a motor vehicle. And on top,
he just said she's lying. Okay, some of y'all might be thinking like, what the hell is he talking about? Y'all got to remember, they have an audience. They have an audience there. They have people who's in their classes. So for him to say that, for her to say that you're giving misinformation, that's not only attacking his belief system, it's attacking his money.
please cite me the law. Please cite me the law. Okay, I have multiple times. I think the only person who has cited me law has been Mr. Abdullah Bey. That's been the only person who has cited me law. And then I went and I looked at his law and saw that it did not apply to this situation. Please cite me some law. You said that it wasn't. You said that it wasn't a personal attack, but now I'm lying. I've never called you a liar. I believe that you genuinely believe what you believe. You are making misrepresentation, sir.
Can I address?
Yes, please, Mr. Bay.
All this, sir, and all this stuff, that's disrespectful.
Now calling you sir is disrespectful. This is what happens when grown ass men forget that. This is what happens when you trigger sovereign citizens and these Moorish American El Bay motherfuckers. This is what happens when you trigger these patriots. They don't hear nothing else but you're saying what I believe is wrong. I got 5 notebooks of notes I've been taking and doing endless research. You mean to tell me I'm wrong? Yes, you're wrong. Y'all always wrong. You've always been wrong, and you're always going to be wrong.
You know that we're Moors. So don't tell me about no sir and all that stuff. Like
How is that disrespectful?
Respectful position. We're not sir.
How is that disrespectful?
I'm not a sir. You don't call me sir in your little legal tone as if you're respecting somebody. You're not respecting anybody talking crazy, sir.
So once again, now you have. Now, you know what? Mr. Abdullah Bey would like to speak, and you wouldn't allow him to speak.
No, this is my platform. You ain't telling me what to do here.
Okay. Okay. These are great arguments, by the way. They're working really well.
They're working real great for you, by the way.
Just because Bud versus New York doesn't mention specifically the word motor vehicle, traveling, or automobile, that does not mean that it's not relevant to the topic of discussion because we're talking about the status of driving and traveling. That's like saying Coon versus Neal doesn't apply to anything because it doesn't specifically mention, whatever it is we're talking about, but it states in Coon versus Neal that all men are independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature.
So let me ask yourself a question. If you got into a traffic ticket, you hired a lawyer, and if your lawyer knew that was a legal viable defense, why would your lawyer raise it? Number 2, if it was so unconstitutional, why don't you think the DMVs would have been abolished? Don't you think the Supreme Court would have been struck them down? Like why do y'all look at the Supreme Court for case laws to support your right to drive without a license, but then the same Supreme Court upheld the state's authority to require one. Why do y'all always, or why do they always skip around that? Like okay, explain that. Why they gotta move the goalpost, start talking about something else? Explain that same Supreme Court. They don't ever want to, they run and hide. Soon as the kitchen gets hot, they go run. This is why no one's yet, with that Admiralty Maritime, this is why no one's yet that came back and said, I beat my case because the court found it didn't have no subject matter jurisdiction because there's only Admiralty Maritime, a common law. And the court threw my case out, black and white, in the order, in the ruling, not no technical. They threw it out because they just ain't want to pursue the case. I'm talking about from your merits of your motions that you filed. They will never be able to produce it. And this is what gets them mad at me, because they would love so much to produce with the judge agreeing with them, but they can't. But I can continue to show many cases where the judge agrees with me, including my own.
Not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow men without his consent. That's dealing with the right to contract, and the right to association was also dealing with human rights. And in regards to traveling, it states in the Articles of Confederation, which is part of the Constitution, reference Article 6 of the Constitution, that we have the right to free ingress and regress into every state. So the fact that they're saying we need permission, which a driver's license is permission by definition, that violates our free right to ingress and regress into every other state. The reason why they have tolls and driver's licenses and things like that is only for the regulation of commerce, which is traffic. And here I showed in Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, signed.
What did I tell you? When they can't point to a case law to support what he just said, what do? They move to the Black's Law Dictionary. That's all they have. Ask yourself, if I had to explain this in front of the court, how would I sound?
By the retired Chief Justice of the Rhode Island Superior Court, that traffic is commerce and trade, and every other subsequent definition deals with goods, trade, commerce, and business, and has nothing to do with people driving in their private capacity. So to say that Bud versus New York is irrelevant is frivolous. It has no standing just because it doesn't mention the word motor vehicle or traveling.
You idiot! The case that you cite has to deal with the subject matter at hand. If you're using a case to talk about driving and the case don't even mentions the word driving, the case has no relevance. And this is what I was talking about in the newsletter. The rule, the law, the substance of the case, the subject matter, the specific facts, explained in detail. How does this case apply to my case? And then tie the specific facts to the reasoning in that case. And asking the judge to apply the same reasoning in that case to this case, because the specific facts and elements are all lining up. The problem why they can't do it is because the teaching, the advocating, the packages, the discharge, the debt elimination, reasoning that they tell people why you can do it, there is no case law, no regulation, no rule to support it. So people still raise those arguments in court because they heard it online, but they never have the specific case and substantive law to back up what they're being taught online. This is why I say it sounds good on social media, but it's dead on arrival as soon as you get into court. This is a classic example of what I always talk about. Classic example.
And even wrong stating that we're arguing the right to drive. We're not arguing the right to drive. We're arguing the right to travel. It doesn't matter how you're traveling. In this case laws.
I just read this from the lawyer. I just read it. They keep trying. That is a typical sovereign citizen argument. I'm going to disregard the rules and requirements for certain modes of transportation that I would like to travel in, knowing that I can't just hop on a plane. I can't just fly a plane without a license. I can't drive a boat without a license. I can't get behind a vehicle without a license. But since I'm able to travel throughout the United States freely, I'm just going to park all the requirements under traveling. This is their argument, which will easily get picked apart. But these are your gurus. These are your social media teachers. These are these debt elimination, get out of debt, free money, money that I'm not entitled to. I don't have to pay a bill back. I don't have to follow a law that is Achilles heel to me. I don't have to be accountable for nothing in life. I don't have to do anything I don't want. I got to consent before I have to follow a law. But these are the mindset of people who, where's any success in their life at with this mindset? No accountability, no honesty, no integrity, no nothing. And these are the same ones who will come online every day and tell you just how successful that they are. And they can't even understand the simple concept of the requirements for a driver's license before you operate a motor vehicle. They don't understand why it's there.
Referencing that as well, because government only has power because the people gave it to them. In this case law stating that governments, courts can't go beyond the powers delegated to them, which is why the 10th Amendment exists, stating that all rights, I'm paraphrasing, stating that anything that's not stated in the Constitution doesn't deprive the people of that right. It goes either to the people or to the state. And when you read the definition of state in the law book, the state is the people. So governments don't.
Look at this guy. What did I tell you? The literal interpretation. He thinks the state means the people, you and I. I've said this for weeks. They really think when it says reserved to the people, they're talking about you and I. People who weren't even thought of when the Constitution was written. They think it's talking about reserved to us, like us individuals, not the state legislators. They think they're talking about us. But these are people who teach and can't even understand the simple concept.
Have power over the people. Governments have prescribed delegated authority given to them by things like municipal charters, constitutions, and things like that. And that's it. They can't go beyond that authority. And to act as if they're not is completely disregarding the foundation of the entire document that we're talking about.
It's criminal.
Can I respond to what you said? Okay, so I'll take.
It's criminal and treason. Another two assertions. They're just a conclusion with nothing to back it up.
Take what you said in turn. First of all, I was reading some of your comment section here, and they said that I was dodging the question. I have a driver's license. There's nothing to dodge there. I was just pointing out that your premise was incorrect. But going back to Mr. Abdullah.
Sister, I have a driver's license too. Yep. I have insurance, have registration. I also have the title to it. No harm, no foul. Not a big deal.
First of all, when you deal with the doctrine of stare decisis, or basically following what one case says to another, what the courts are going to look to, any court that you go.
Pay attention. If you was in my live for the newsletter the past 2 days, pay attention. Remember, this is a licensed attorney. Pay attention.
To is the law that deals with the issue that you are before the court for. Even if you want to define driving as something separate than, traveling, and say that people look to any court that you go to, is the law that deals with the issue that you are before the court for. Even if you want to.
With what? What did I say? The issue in which you are in the court for. Damn, my bad. I'm taking this comment down. The issues that what you're in the court for.
define driving as something separate than, you know, traveling, and say that, you know, the issue of driver's licenses don't apply to this or whatever the case may be, the courts don't agree with you, and they have not agreed with you, and they've addressed your issue. Please let me finish. Over and over and over again, and in each and every single one of these cases, and I said it's been over 1,000 cases or some odd, they've said that if you want to operate a motor vehicle, you have to have a driver's license to do so, and that the states are given the authority to enforce that you need to have a driver's license, registration, and insurance. That has been said in case after case after case. You cite the Black's Law Dictionary, however, the edition that you're citing to is very, very out of date.
You better not tell them the 4th edition is out of date. You better tell them that even when courts look at it to get a clear understanding of the normal meanings, that they're going to use the 11th or 12th edition. You better not invalidate that 4th edition. The 4th edition is just like the Dead Sea Scrolls. You better not say nothing about that 4th edition. That's the Bible.
Sometimes, I believe, before the advent of driver's licenses. Aside from that, Black's Law Dictionary is not law. It is just a dictionary. That's all it is. It has no force of law. There's not a court today that uses anything. First of all, Black's Law Dictionary it's not really in vogue. And then secondly, there's not a court of law today that you can walk into if you're charged with any type of an offense that will use Black's Law Dictionary and say, well, because Black's Law Dictionary says this is how we're going to do it. And then,
sister, you better not say that. You better not say that, sister. You better not say that. You better not.
You're rocking with the best.
You better not say that Black's Law Dictionary ain't gonna hold no legal force of effect in court. You better not.
And finally, I would challenge your argument that basically the state does not have power over people. If we're not talking about traffic infractions, which to me are not the most serious things in the world, right? There's far more serious crimes. Say that we're talking about murder, right? Say someone kills another person. The government has the power to arrest that person. That's basically kidnapping. Take that person and put them in a jail, right? To try that person, to put that person away.
But here's the thing though. Why is all this around traveling? They don't never, like, it's always about a traffic ticket. They always got to keep it at the state, local, municipal court. You want to know why? Because they never, ever win in federal. They don't win at all with these arguments, but they don't ever attempt to try this with the feds. You will never win any of these arguments, let alone state court, especially federal court. All of your social media teachings lose in court, especially in federal court. You all will lose with these teachings.
A municipality is a form of government. Put that person away. Try them by a jury. Sentence them. In some states, execute them. Take their lives away. That's at the most extreme end of things. The government has the ability to do all types of things. Repossess people's property. Even though people don't agree with it, the government taxes people. Whether it's a state government, federal government, local government, which is what a municipality is. No, I'm just addressing the things that you said, which is that the government doesn't have power over people. Of course it has power over people. It doesn't.
You notice how he actually brought it up, but when she's breaking it down, oh, now you're getting off topic. The disingenuous nature of these people.
So when someone molests a child, the government doesn't have the authority or the power to put that person in prison?
Can I ask a question?
You're talking about the status of a crime. That's different. You're mixing people in their private capacity, and then when that person commits a crime.
That private capacity means nothing. I don't know why I say that online. It means nothing. It means nothing. That private capacity shit means nothing. It means nothing. Stop it. If the state legislator authorizes it, lower courts, municipal courts, this court, If the state legislator authorize it, it is what it is. Yeah, listen, y'all. I know we like to think we have the power to wave a magic wand and then strike down any laws we don't like. Y'all, you don't have no power. You're not part of the legislator. You don't write the laws. You're not sitting at the round table when they putting laws on the books. You're not in the back rooms at the General Assembly. You're not on the congressional floor when they're voting on laws. You're not saying yay or nay. Your opinion doesn't matter. It doesn't. Nobody cares. The lawmakers don't give a damn if you don't like it or not. If you don't follow them, you get caught out of bounds. You know what's going to happen. There's nothing you can do to change it. You're not a legislator. Stop acting like you are. You're not. You're really not that much important as you think you are. To them, you're just another citizen. I know you don't want to think you're a United States citizen, but we know you have a birth certificate and a social security card. No matter how many times you want to cancel it and turn it back in, you are to them. You are a 14th Amendment citizen. I'm a 14th Amendment citizen. All of you are 14th Amendment citizen. All of you are. Even you sovereigns, Moors, patriots, you are a 14th Amendment citizen. Yes, you are.
Crime, which now you're talking about a different status because you're injuring the public. Yes, government has power to regulate that. Yes, that our argument is not that. If you
So then the government has power over people.
But earlier he said there has to be an injured party. Now he's saying you injured the public. So the preference that you don't need to have, I know everybody has a literal interpretation. So when you say injured party, you mean there has to be someone to point you out saying you injured me. But he don't even realize he defeated his own argument now when he says you injured the public. So when you violate the laws, that's the crime. You injured the public by not adhering to the laws. Some laws, some crimes, they don't actually, or violations has to be like a official injured party. See, that's that misunderstanding of taking that Article 3 federal court concept and trying to apply it worldwide. That's why y'all keep saying injured party. That is a Article 3 federal court concept where they bit it from. So they try to take that injured party, like in a traffic ticket, there's no injured party when there's no requirement for it to be an injured party. It's the society and the citizens as whole who is the injured party because you broke the laws, which everybody must follow. This is why the state's attorney on behalf of the state or on behalf of the people. You see how it goes? Nah, they still don't get it.
Liable to be sued and be brought to court. But if you do not commit a crime and there's no civil infraction, there's no injured party, then the government has no jurisdiction to even talk to you.
What did he just say? He just said exactly. He just did it.
You talk to them.
So the traffic articles of every state are under the criminal articles. They are considered crimes because the penalties that come with them can put people in jail. Okay, can we concede that at least? That whether or not the government, let me just, can I please just finish this point, please? Whether or not the government is right or wrong, and whether or not you agree or disagree with the government exercising this power, right? The government can, when someone drives without a license, put a person in jail. And they do that, right? They have, and they do that. I'm sorry, say that again?
A belief system argument, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It's the law, it's in the laws. See, with this, the arguments, you got to stop getting, that's not right, that's not lawful, that whole comment, so is that right or that's not right? This is where emotional lawsuits are born from. The feeling that you've been harmed and something's not right. This is the birth of emotional filings in emotional lawsuits.
Are you saying that that's right? Somebody doesn't have a license, so they throw somebody in jail. Are they right for that?
Personally, right, versus professionally, I don't like the idea of jailing somebody for driving without a license because I think that mostly it's a poverty crime, right? I don't like the idea.
I agree. I don't think it's really that serious. I get it, but sheesh. But it is mainly a poverty crime. Reports show that over 87% of people who adopt this right to travel ideology and beliefs has some type of court fine, child support they didn't pay, suspended license, that which makes it hard for them to get their license. No, that's I know there's some cases where people just do it just to do it, but the majority of people who adopt this belief is because they have to out of necessity, because they can't get their license the normal way anymore. That's all it is. It's no different from a person who fell behind on their mortgage and can't pay their mortgage anymore, automatically just all of a sudden believing that they funded their own loan now. You get what I'm saying? That it's pretty much along the same lines.
There are statistics on that. So many people that don't have the same belief system as you are driving around without a license, not because they don't believe that they don't have to have one, but just because they can't afford to get their license renewed. Say it got suspended, or their state requires driver's ed, for example. And so they can't afford to go to driver's ed. Or their license was suspended because of child support. And the reason they have that child support is because they lost their job. But now they can't find a job because their license is suspended and they can't go from point A to point B. Do I believe that those people should go to jail? Absolutely not.
But what she just said, that is the foundation of a lot of these people's beliefs. If you notice that a lot of these people that sit on their little live streams with their fans on, you can tell they're like in a 1-bedroom apartment. You can tell there's a lot of clothes hanging up around their room. You know, you can tell it's probably like stuff under their bed. This is a place, sadly enough, a lot of people that's at or below the poverty line are in these spaces. Like they believe this stuff because of their like their financial situations, things being tight. It drives a lot of people to this stuff. That's why you rarely ever see like millionaires, a lot of like affluent people in these spaces. It's always the, paycheck to paycheck, government assistance, can't really afford the stuff online, but just it sounds good. And these are kind of the people that are knee deep in those spaces.
I don't like it, but the state has the authority to do it. There are lots of laws that I don't agree with, but the state has the authority to do it. That's all I'm trying to say.
Okay, so if that's the case, then why would you give that answer in your personal capacity, but not in your
see this personal private capacity, but that's a sovereign citizen.
Professional capacity, when your professional capacity is to defend people who get violated.
Well, when I defend people who get violated, I'm trying to keep them out of jail. That's what I'm doing. But unfortunately, in a professional capacity, I have to completely understand the law and all of its authority in order to protect my clients.
The law that you're understanding, is the law that you're understanding the supreme law of the land, or is the law that you're understanding the statutes, ordinances, and acts created by the states?
I think that those are both the same thing. There's not a separation. You and I are going to have to disagree with that, and disagree on that.
There's no real big separation, but since that's part of their selling points of belief systems, you're going to see him push back harder now.
In my opinion, right? Those are.
It's like what words mean. Like, because you say like it's just a dictionary when you say that.
Okay, semantics game. Here's the moving the goalpost, splitting hairs, semantics games. Now, it's the same playbook for all of them.
But if we don't know what words mean, how do we even talk?
Okay, so I think.
Like, how does that? Like, I don't get that. Like, when you say that,
yeah.
Like, we have to know what the word means. So when the Grand Chief said a statute, like by definition, a statute will be this. So, and like, I feel like you ignore the definitions.
No.
And we just go around with general terms.
No.
Like, that's just or a saying, but not by the true definition of what it is. And then when we say a dictionary is not qualified, that's opinionated. Because I can easily say to you, sure, cite me the court case that says Black's Law Dictionary doesn't exist. Like, it's the same.
Plenty of court cases have ruled that. They've broken down in court cases. See, this is a disingenuous statement because you not understanding the definition or statute, or just because with the premise that he's making, statutes are a matter of interpretation in court. So what you believe a statute is supposed to say means nothing. That's why I tell people, y'all keep trying to interpret statutes for your own interpretation. It's a waste of time to try to interpret a statute so you can understand what it means. It doesn't matter what you think it says, what I think it says. It matters is how it's consistently interpreted by the courts. That's the only interpretation that matters. So you try to understand what it says and figure out what it says, you're wasting your time.
Same thing. Like, you say that all the time, and I'm like, I can say the same thing to you. Like, even when you refer back to history, when you looked up when license existed. So when we refer to you, well, when did these colonists come over here and start making these laws? You want us to cite the court date, or the court case for that, but you don't cite no court case when you look up for when did automobiles come into existence. Like, why can you use history? But when we ask about history, it's the issue. Like, we know that these are colonists here making these so-called statutes, acts, and ordinances.
A disingenuous point. He's being disingenuous.
Like, it's like you just made a quick research. Boom. The automobile came in this year. You don't know the research that these colonists came over here and started making these unconstitutional statutes, ordinances, and stuff. Like, you just did the research. I saw you. So I know you know how to research stuff. Like, so you don't know that? You don't know that they're colonists?
Okay, so
the reason why it's disingenuous because the research that she's doing is not the research they're doing. When he said you don't know they're colonists, see, he's doing confirmation bias research. I told you, these people in these spaces, they only research things that confirms their bias, that confirms their belief. They're not researching for the unadulterated, uncut facts. Because if they read something that cuts to differently from what they believe, they're going to log out of what they're reading and go find something else that confirms their belief. This is 95% of these spaces. Whether you identify with a label or not, many people in these spaces already have their own beliefs on how court works. And they're going to operate more on that belief rather than how courts, the rules of proceedings and how it's interpreted and how it actually flows. They're never going to do it because beliefs govern over the realities in this space.
I'm going to try to answer your question as completely as possible. Why is that a problem? Why is that a problem? Oh, okay. So in trying to answer your question as completely as possible, I'll say this. The words and the definitions within the law are contained within both the statutes and the case law. You can, of course, amplify or give context to legislative intent, basically what the legislators meant when they were putting laws in place by
AKA, it's all a matter of interpretation.
I look into history. Of course, history is important, and I want everyone to look at history when they look at the laws. But the history does not trump the law, right? So the law, as it is written, right? We have statutes.
You better not say that. Say that to these historians. You better say that to these historians, because every time they're online, they always want to talk about the history and this and that. You better not say that to these historians. You better not.
Can you cite the court case for what you just stated?
That's a disingenuous argument. See that literal, okay, you cite the court case that says exactly. I told you, these people are disingenuous. That's a disingenuous point. They're still missing it because they're arguing. Basically, they're trying to get her to convince them that their belief is wrong instead of just debating the facts. When you're debating these sovereign citizens, these Moors, these patriots, these equity, these private, these indigenous, these executors, whatever, all of you are sovereign citizens of me. Whenever you're debating them, they always want to get you to appeal to their belief system.
It's in the rules of statutory construction that are found in every.
Statutes. Here we go again.
They don't understand what that means, sister. They don't understand what you just said. Now they're looking at statutes. Oh, that's statutes, which there's nothing else that they're gonna look at. What else you gonna look at? Not your little private equity documents. They don't care about that crap. Not your affidavit of truths. None of that crap works.
But you wanted me to cite to the law.
That's not a law. Statutes are not laws.
You don't
By
believe that.
definition.
You don't
By
believe.
definition. I'm not debating. I'm saying by definition in a dictionary.
Look at this idiot. Look at this dingbat. Look at this dingbat. Statutes are not laws. Okay. Go out there and violate one of them and see whether it's a law or not.
A statute is literally a law that's written by the legislature. Okay, I mean.
Okay, so she just gave you 100% absolute facts that every court in America goes by. Everyone, every federal, local, state, right now. This is a classic example when you are debating people whose belief system is now caught up in it. They're only saying no. It's not because they believe it. There's nothing factual what they're saying. She is 100% right. But they're going to say no because their beliefs says otherwise.
I'm not debating. I'm just saying what the dictionary says.
Okay. That's all I'll say to that. Okay.
I know.
No, I mean, it's the thing.
And he thinks he's right. Those statutes are not laws. That's exactly what it is. The law was passed by the Congress or the state legislator and has been enacted as a statute. If you violate it, what you think you gonna go on a picnic? Pass through the General Assembly, state legislator, or pass through on the debate floor, House of Representatives, and the Senate. It gets voted, becomes law. The law is enacted into the statute. So Title 18 is not a. So Title 18 USC is not going to be enforced as you violating the law when you break it. Okay, so when you send your fictitious checks to the IRS, you know, when you owe like $7,000 to the IRS, but you send them a $207,000 check. First red flag is the IRS is going to look at it like, if you only owe us $7,000, why are you sending us $200,000 more? That's the first red flag. And the only reason why they do that, because they think that they're going to get a $200,000 quick refund from fraudulent funds from the beginning. You know, the $7,000 to pay the tax debt wasn't even legit. But if you actually had $207,000 in your actual bank account, you would have never sent a $207,000 check. You would have paid the tax. Let's say in a general person, you would have paid the $7,000. You would have never emptied your bank account of $207,000 if that was actually sitting in your account. You would have never done that. You would have never done it. But since the money is coming out the thin air, you're going to put $207,000 on a $7,000 tax bill in hopes again a $200,000 refund. Now tell me, where is there anything legal within that? All you got to do is ask these people, would you done the same thing if you actually had that money sitting in your checking or savings account, and which you have direct access to by order of withdrawal, point of sale transaction? Would you have done the same thing? And the answer for these people, no. If I really had $200,000 sitting in my bank account and only owed $7,000, I'm only going to send $7,000. Why would I empty out my bank account for that? Nope. Nope.
The thing that you're saying is not true. There is an actual.
I'm saying what the dictionary says.
Okay, let's look at what the dictionary says that a statute is. Okay.
Let's get it. That's what I'm talking about.
What is a statute? A statute is a written law passed by a legislative body. So a statute is a law.
Now, remember, they asked for it, they got it, What's the number one thing with these people? What is the number one thing that they're going to do? You got it. They're going to move the goalpost. Now it's time to move the goalpost.
Yes.
Are you aware that Article 4?
See how they move the goalpost? They just said statute wasn't law. She just gave them the dictionary. What did they do? Damn, they got us here. Are you aware of art? I told you they're gonna move the goalposts. They're gonna act like they ain't just had that conversation.
Of the Constitution.
And she should have made them acknowledge that statutes are laws right there. She let them off the hook there. I believe. She should have made them acknowledge that. Because making them acknowledge it, they would have fought hard against it and they would have looked crazy in front of their audience because they were just saying statute wasn't law. So she gave you for the definition you asked for. Statute is a body of law. It is. And she let them off the hook with this Article 4 crap.
It states that in each state shall be guaranteed a Republican form of government.
Yes.
So, based on that, would you agree that the democracy is unconstitutional since it was never stated or written in the Constitution? Since you stated that Bud versus New York didn't apply to the argument of driving and traveling because it didn't mention either of those words. So since the Constitution doesn't mention the word democracy, can we both agree that a democracy is unconstitutional?
What a nitwit. Oh, God.
Hold on 1 second. I'll try to answer your question. You know, I'm not a dictionary, so hold on. Thank you. Okay. So your question is that, let me make sure I rephrase the question so I understand it. That because the word democracy is not mentioned in the Constitution, right? That this is not a democracy.
So I was asking.
Or like basically a like, okay, sorry. Let me do one more thing. Article 4 says, you know, that it's, what was you say, Article 4, right?
Yes.
Article 4, Section 4 says that the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence, So it guarantees a republican form of government. So you're saying that, is this not a democracy since it guarantees a republican form of government?
So yes, but I was using your earlier argument against Glenn versus New York because when I referenced that, you stated since it didn't mention driving, traveling, or motor vehicle, that I couldn't use that in my argument.
Right.
You are a goof troop. You are really a goof troop. You are trying to take two different things and try to know. They were talking about the argument in the case law you cited in support of your argument. Meaning, the case law that you cited, the underlying facts and circumstances of that case that you cited must be identical to yours. The facts and circumstances are in line. And then the reasoning that they used in that case must be the reasoning that you're asking the judge to apply to your case. So since driving or license was never mentioned in that case that you cited, that case was irrelevant that you cited because the subject matter of the case had nothing to do with your argument. Now you're trying to say, well, since the Constitution ain't actually say democracy mentioned in it, I told you literal interpretations. Like mention, if they ain't have this specific word mentioned in it, then it's unconstitutional. You dummy. I swear to God. Oh God.
Right.
So now,
Right.
Since the Constitution, based on your opinion and your beliefs and your ideas,
Sure.
since the Constitution does not state a democratic form of government or a due process system, is it not true that the democracy is unconstitutional?
No, I would say that that's not true, and that what you're doing is conflating two different issues, although it's a creative argument.
Thank she caught it too. Thank you. Woo. This isn't an actual real life attorney, so yeah, I would expect her to catch it.
Okay, so hold on now, right? I'm referencing, this is the Daily Register. This is Wednesday, July 6th, 1864, from the Library of Congress. So you go to loc.gov. In the newspaper at the time, it stated that Congress adjourns Timothy, which means without day, which means they're no longer going to meet again as Congress of the Republic. It stated that a terrible plot was discovered. It is stated on very good authority in Washington City that Mr. Stewart has prepared a grand coup to demolish the Democratic Party.
Is this case law? Is this statutory law? You're reading, I told you, the sources that they read. It's always some damn letter, some damn Pope letter they sent to Obama. It's never nothing like legal. Like, their arguments are horrible. They have nothing to stand on.
Re-elect Mr. Lincoln because the Democratic Party was trying to overthrow the Union in 1861, which is why Civil War broke out in 1862.
Yeah.
He has invented a splendid plot, which is to be exposed, of course, in due time, going to show that the Democratic Party are involved in a vast conspiracy to smash things generally. It is said that 1,000 pages of evidence going to prove the existence of this terrible conspiracy has been submitted to Mr. Lincoln, and that a well-known general, once respected.
That is in I remember that's in the redemption conspiracy theory documents. Oh, God.
Has lent his name to it's hard to read, an issue of nonsensical slander upon members of the Democratic Party. It is no secret that a vast system of espionage has been organized all over the North, and proofs will soon be forthcoming that the mails are regularly tampered with to find evidence, if possible, against persons who are inimical to the administration. So it's clearly stated that the Democratic Party.
There is nothing that is, oh my gosh. So that's a letter or a note that someone put together for what they feel was going. I told you, nothing is, oh God, these people are fucking nerve-wracking.
Is the issue here at that time, this is 1864.
Sure.
And since the Constitution makes no reference to a democracy, and since the democracy was involved in a coup, as it just said, which would be treason against the United States, this is evidence that the Democratic Party is treasonous and unconstitutional. So how can you state?
That's just like saying that the NFL wasn't mentioned in the Constitution, created during the Constitution. So the National Football League, that's unconstitutional. That's just like saying anything else that wasn't expressly mentioned in the Constitution is unconstitutional.
How can you state that I'm mixing arguments when the history proves that the democracy is unconstitutional?
Okay, so I'll take your question in turn. As far as you're conflating issues, right? The Democratic.
He's been doing it since he's talking. I know in his mind he think he hit her with a "I got you" moment. But he does not understand what he's talking about. And this is the problem with people who think like this. They've already started off on shaky foundations. So they built their whole years in East Space on shaky foundations. And they get so far gone that, and their beliefs are so far gone with it, that for some people, it's just impossible for them to come back to reality.
Party and the democracy are two separate things, right? The Democratic Party is just a party in a political party, right? There's a Green Party. There's, all these.
In the duplex system, that's unconstitutional, yes.
That is a opinion.
There's the Green Party. There's the Republican Party. The Republic and the Republican Party are not the same thing. The Democratic Party and the democracy are also not the same thing. And none of these things are relevant to the issue of whether or not the case that you cited, Bud versus State or Bud. versus New York.
Talking about the government. Which government are we talking
I told you, when they couldn't win that argument on the case he cited, they're moving the goalposts to what's constitution, what's not. Democracy. Since democracy wasn't mentioned in the Constitution, that means the Democratic Party. See how literal? Oh, democracy, Democrat. Oh, there must be two the same things. So since democracy wasn't mentioned in the Constitution, then the Democrat Party must. You see how literal they take things? I told you, can't kick a can down the street, save their lives. They have no insight. They have nothing. They can't think outside the box. They can't see around the corners. Everything just has to be literal on a template for them to understand. When I say many people use less than 2% of their brain in their everyday lives, this is exactly what I mean.
Are we talking about the government that's authorized by the Constitution? Or are we talking about the people that overthrew the Union? So which one are we talking about?
But that's not the argument that you were making when you were citing to Bud versus State or Bud versus New York.
Well, so
you were
in
saying
Bud versus New York, I was using your thought pattern because you stated I couldn't use that in my argument because it didn't mention certain words. So
exactly, because you were trying to use case law to support your art. This person has no clue. It's people like this who will never win. They will always fail at what they do because they think they understand a system that they have very little understanding of. This person will never win. He don't even get basic concepts and differentiations and narrow distinctions. He can't even get that part right.
Now,
right, it didn't deal with the issue. Yeah.
So now I'm stating to you, based on your argument, based on what you told me, that since the Constitution doesn't make the argument of a democracy or a Democratic Party or anything like that in reference to a du ploy system or a du ploy government, it is unconstitutional based on your arguments. You are
this guy needs help. You are conflating two things that don't match. And this is what these people would do. He's making a fool out of himself. He's missing it. Like they all do.
No.
Based on your reasoning.
No. I disagree. And I'll tell you why I disagree. I disagree because, first of all, the rules of statutory construction and that have to do with interpreting case law are not related to the formation of the government. Those are two different things, two completely different issues that don't relate to each other whatsoever.
Now, she is 100% correct. Watch in. It's going to move the goalposts again.
As far as the formation of the government is concerned, there is no party which is mentioned in the Constitution. That doesn't mean that all of these other...
But hold on. But you notice that, though, he didn't say anything about the Republican Party.
Parties like the Democratic Socialist Party, the Socialist Party, the Communist Party. There is still a Communist Party in the United States, surprisingly, right? None of those parties, the independents, are mentioned in the Constitution. It doesn't make them per se unconstitutional because the Constitution does not basically form political parties. Those political parties are they form of their own and they have their own rules and they're allowed to operate. And really the government can't get involved in how those parties basically form and operate because it's like a free speech thing, right? Now, as far as
that's not my argument. Isn't about free speech. My argument is about democracy.
You are still missing it, you idiot. It's not what he's saying. What she's saying.
No, I know, and I get that your argument I appreciate your argument because, like I said, it is creative, but it is incorrect as far as evaluating whether or not Bud versus New York applies to the issue of the right to travel, because Bud versus New York does not deal with the right to travel. So when you want to cite, here's the thing. You guys can do whatever you want to do. I want to make it very, very clear. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind. I'm just saying that this is what it is when anyone, no matter who they are, goes to court. If you want to cite to a case, all you have to do is just find a case that deals with your issue. If the issue is about driving a car, right? About traffic court, then you have to get a case that deals with traffic court, that deals with that.
Exactly. I just said in my newsletter, I just said the same thing. The problem that they have with that, this is why they push back on that, because none of their teachings online, and 98% of the teachings that you hear online today, they can't find case law to support it. This is why I always say it sounds good online, but it's dead on arrival when you get to court.
Issue.
So using that, what you're saying,
Yeah.
since the Constitution doesn't deal with the issue of democracy or Democratic Party, right? Forget the party argument, because that's not even
Right, because when you say Democratic Party, that doesn't have anything to do with democracy. That those are two different things.
Along that democracy.
He doesn't hear you because just like the rest of them, they have a literal interpretation on everything that they read and see. It's a literal. Classic example, Title 12 USC Section 412. Just because they saw the word application, they immediately took the term application to mean their mortgage application, their auto application, in which there's a totally separate process by lenders to process applications, in which Title 12 USC Section 412 has no applicability, has no relation. But why would they use a statute that has no relations to fundings for consumer transactions? Because they saw the word application. And remember, the term application is one of those hotspot words. Oh, I funded my loan through my application. My application is security. It created my loan. My signature created it. So they took that word and applied their understanding of the word application to make a whole argument out of a statute that didn't apply. When I talked about this in May, when has the last time you seen people in this space talk about Title 12 USC Section 412? When the last time you hear them, it was plastered around. When the last time you hear the people that was arguing me down over that on the panel that day, on Darren's panel, when the last time you heard those people raise the argument again? See, that's all it takes. That's all it takes to shut it down. And you want to know why they stopped talking about it? It's because I actually read verbatim case law where the judge shut it down in multiple different cases, and they were watching from the clouds when I read those cases. See, if I was just saying it, they would continue to argue me down. But now you have multiple courts for multiple jurisdictions in which the court said courts across America have universally rejected the Title 12 USC Section 412 argument as part of the vapor money theory. Now, they don't even talk about it no more.
Is unconstitutional based on exactly what you just said.
No, because this is not what I'm saying. I am not saying that because Bud versus New York doesn't mention driving or traffic or the right to travel or the right to drive, that the right to travel does not exist just because that case doesn't deal with it. Just because, hold on, let me finish my thought. I didn't say you said that. I'm giving you an analogy. Just because the Constitution does not say Democratic Party does not mean that Democratic parties are not constitutional. It doesn't mean that democracy is unconstitutional, right? None of that.
Please define unconstitutional, because I think
Yes.
Confusion.
Yes. Okay. Just because something's not mentioned in the Constitution doesn't mean that it's unconstitutional. Here is what unconstitutional means. It means that it either violates one of the protected rights that are enumerated in the Constitution, or the right to privacy, which isn't really enumerated, but is recognized by interpretation of the Constitution by the Supreme Court, or violates one of the amendments in the Constitution, or if there is a law that is put down by the Constitution, like the impeachment law, for example, that the impeachment procedure, and doesn't follow along with that law, then that is in violation of the Constitution. So it's basically.
And what about delegated powers? Would the executive branch exercising judicial powers be unconstitutional?
The executive branch is given the right to, so like the executive branches of every single state, for example, they are given the right to form administrative bodies, right? And within those administrative bodies, they can come up under the Constitution. They can form their own quasi-review system that is quasi-judicial in nature, meaning that that executive branch of government has the right. So for example, if the executive branch, like the governor or whatever of a state, decides, or the legislative branch decides to form a motor vehicle association, right? And in forming that motor vehicle association DMV, they then put a hearing body in place. They're allowed to do that as long as there is judicial review over the decisions of that administrative body, just like the FDA. Like there can be hearings for whether or not you violate the rules of the Food and Drug Administration, but they
got them all the time, situated all across the United States. Want to know why? To be in line with the Constitution. See, they don't even understand that.
They cannot extend their powers to do things like lock someone up for violating the Food and Drug Administration. So when something is done under the DMV or MVA, like an administrative hearing, none of those can put a person in jail. They can only revoke your right to drive, revoke your registration. But if you want to put somebody in jail or fine them, then that does have to go through the judicial branch of government. That does have to be in the traffic article or the criminal article. So yeah, there is a difference.
Talking about the extent of those administrative hearings.
I'm not necessarily talking about status. What I'm talking about is
they can't not do anything but apply their belief system to a simple conversation. They gotta throw their belief system into everything. Now with status, they can't help but drop their belief system.
Delegation of powers, which is what your question originally was.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. So since they're not delegated the powers of the judicial branch, and without judicial overview, they wouldn't have the status or standing to exercise the powers of the judicial branch. Which means if they go beyond that, it would be unconstitutional. I think we're agreeing here.
Yeah, I do think that we agree on that. And I'm saying that they don't, right?
But that's unconstitutional versus the law, not unconstitutional just because you don't like their ruling.
Because so traffic issues that could possibly put you in jail, those go to criminal court, traffic court. That's under the judicial branch. And then traffic issues that just have to deal with the state's delegation of authority to hand out licenses that can only revoke your license or revoke your vehicle registration or something like that, or say that you can't drive this car because of emissions issues. Those can go to an administrative body because the stakes are different, right? What can happen to the person is different because they're just promulgating their own rules for that administrative body, and then they have usually a hearing examiner or something like that that hears those issues.
Yes, so that's creating on whether a democracy is constitutional or not. We, based on this.
All right, y'all. Where do we stop at? 54:10. We're going to finish this up because they're going to start to get into more. Basically, the rest of it is going to turn into them basically just like the rest of them. Okay, you discredit my arguments. Now I need you to appeal to my belief system. So I'm going to keep asking you questions and questions and questions and questions and questions and questions until I feel like you've done enough to change my belief system, even though after you're done, I'm still going to believe what I believe. So it just is a pointless conversation for her. She did an amazing job. Shout out to that attorney. She did an amazing job. But yeah, this is what you see is what you get from these people. Continue to keep pushing, push forward, get the ledger, get your hidden figures. And listen, man, you got to change. The system's not going to change. You got to learn how to adapt and adopt the way the system operates. Nobody cares that you don't like it. Nobody cares if you think it's unconstitutional. Nobody cares if you think it's unfair. Nobody cares if you call it fraud. If you can't prove it, not by just you reciting what they did, that's not proving it. If you can't prove it under the law, you lose it. If you don't raise it, you waive it. So it is what it is. The New Culture Empire, we are signing out.
They studying the source now. Supreme Elite. New Empire talk. Came on reading numbers, they were reading memes. He was reading violence, planning out the dream. Turn every late fee into case
in the last check. Thomas took notes, broke codes, then he proved it. Now the classroom global and the language fluid. Thomas is the blueprint. Write that in the sky, let the crew print. From the courtroom smoke to the new man. He designed the way we move our 2 cents. Thomas is the blueprint. Supreme Elite team, that's the school stamp. From the first lay bill to the full camp. New culture empire, watch the flag plan. Supreme Elite team, university. Turn the credit score into currency. Turn the closed door to a first key. Turn a side job to a legacy. He beat odds, then he beat litigation. Now we teach law like a new translation. From confusion into consultation. From survival into foundation. They log in, lights on in their eyes now. Section this, call that. They reply now. He like, know your rights, then apply now. God, that's the real drip. Let it dry now. Thomas is the blueprint. Write that in the sky, let the crew print. From the courtroom smoke to the new man. He designed the way we move our 2 cents. Thomas is the blueprint. Supreme Elite team, that's the school stamp. Wave it. From the first lay bill to the full camp. New culture empire, watch the flag plan. From the bench to the block, he reversed that. Put the power in the pen, yeah, he birthed that. Every mind that he frees, that's a verse that. Whole culture on the rise, you can search that. Hey. Thomas is the blueprint. Write that in the sky, let the blueprint. From the courtroom smoke to the new man. He designed the way we move our 2 cents. Thomas is the blueprint. Supreme Elite team, that's the school stamp. From the first lay bill to the full camp. New culture empire, watch the flag plan.
You're rocking with the best. You're rocking with the best.